Hey YouTube gardeners. Well, I hope everybody's as excited as I am about the growing season. So if you are going to be starting your garden from seed, it is time to start thinking about that. So I like to start my garden from seed. Sometimes I buy a few plants, but for the most part, I do start my garden from seed, and I'm going to share that information with you so that you can start your garden from seed. It is so much cheaper than trying to go out and trying to buy a bunch of plants that are $4 and $5 a piece whenever you can get your own plants from your own seed for just pennies compared to trying to buy plants. So one of the things that you're going to need to keep in mind is that we are not all from the same area. We all have a different growing season. We all have different climates. So unless you are from East Tennessee, Northeast Tennessee, then you're probably not going to be able to grow things exactly like I grow them. So this is just a guide, and this is just a very generalized video just to give you a little bit of information and to hopefully encourage you to grow your garden from seed. Hey guys, I just wanted to do a real quick edit to just clarify something. This video is not going to go in depth about all of the different ways that you can garden. This video is going to be specific to starting a garden from seed, and it's going to be pretty general because you can go into a lot of depth about the kind of dirt that you use. You can go into depth about the kind of containers to use. You can go into a lot of depth about the right kind of lighting to use when it comes to grow lights, or compared to sun. So there's a lot of different ways that you can go, that you can dive really deep into this subject. So this video is just going to be pretty general about starting from seed. I have other videos where I go in depth about different things. I have a video about lighting. I have a video about grow lights. I have a video about container gardening. I have a video about the different containers that you can use when starting from seed. So this is just a very general video. But what I want you to keep in mind is that you can really go deep into a lot of these different things, into a lot of the details of a garden. And you can look up all of this information, and it's great information, but what I really want to impress upon you is that having a garden is something that you continually grow in. Every year you're going to learn more. Every year you're going to make changes. So don't feel like that you have to get it completely right and completely perfect the first time. Just get some dirt and some containers and some seeds and start growing. If you wait until you have learned every little thing there is to know about gardening, you may never get started. So just start growing. Start simple, start small, and you will be amazed at the results that you get. And there's also a lot of information out there on gardening, and so it can get confusing whenever you start looking at 2 or 3 different people's videos. This one says this and that one says this. So again, I just want to impress upon you to just keep it simple. In this video, I'm going to try to focus on the things that you really need to start a garden, and not a lot of the frivolous things that are nice to have that you don't really have to have. Okay, let's get back to the video. So the things that you absolutely have to have is you have to have soil. Soil is going to be your foundation. You have to have some kind of container to put it in. You are going to have some light. And you also need a fan. I did not use a fan last year, but a fan is really important to have. And if you don't have a fan, you need to make sure that you are rubbing your hand over your plants and trying to simulate the wind blowing to make your roots strong before you can actually put them outside. If they don't have some kind of movement, like from a fan blowing that's simulating the wind, then your roots are not going to be really strong. So you really need a fan. It's not absolutely crucial that you have that, but it really will help your plants. So what I like to start with, so depending on what I'm growing will determine what kind of container that I'm using. I have started in containers like this. This is very similar to a plug tray. They're a little bit bigger than plugs. This tray is enough to start 72 plants. So that's a lot, and they're starting off small. So the nice thing about this is that you don't have to have a whole lot of soil starting off with, but you will need to up pot your plants at some point, depending on what you're growing. So this is what I'm going to use for starting my tomatoes today. And I have started tomatoes a lot of different ways. I have started them in red Solo cups. I have started a bunch of them in one bowl and then separated them later. Tomatoes actually do very well whenever you put them in a different pot, what we call up potting. So every time that I would move my tomatoes up, they just seemed to flourish. So I think tomatoes do very well when you up pot them. So I'm going to start my tomatoes off in this, and then whenever they start outgrowing this, I will move them up to my 3-inch pots. You can start off with a 3-inch pot if you want and not have to up pot them. It's completely up to you. Now this is the soil that I like to use. You do not have to use a seed starting mix, but a seed starting mix is made specifically for starting seeds. It's really light and fluffy. It does not have nutrients in it though, so you have to consider that. And so that will help determine how you treat your plants. So at some point, whenever they begin to get their true leaves, you will have to feed them. So you'll either need some fertilizer, or you will need to put them in some kind of soil where they can get some nutrients, because this is completely sterile and it does not have nutrients in it. And it comes that way so that there are not harmful bacteria or harmful insect eggs in the soil that you use. And I have used different kinds of soil. You can use regular potting mix if you want. You'll just need to sift it out, get some of the bigger pieces out, and get it down to a light and fluffy mixture. And it will have nutrients in it, but you have to just kind of keep in mind that sometimes potting mix will have small microscopic eggs in it from gnats or other bugs that can get into your house. So if you're going to be starting seeds in your house, you may want to consider that. So you've got to have soil. Soil is your foundation. You've got to have seeds. So depending on what you are going to be planting will determine when you will plant it. So like right now, I am a little less than 8 weeks away from my last frost date. And so I'm ready to plant my tomatoes. And each pack will tell you when to do that. So for instance, this is the glass gem corn, and it says to direct sow into soil 1 to 2 weeks before the last spring frost. So this can be direct sown. Let me find a tomato. Okay, this is a Super Sweet 100. This can be started indoors 6 to 8 weeks before planting outdoors. And so I put mine, this year I will put mine outside on or around April 29th, because that is my last frost date. So what you'll do is look at the calendar, figure out your last frost date, and you can Google that. I Googled last frost date for Northeast Tennessee, and I may have even said the city that I live in, but either way, you can find out the last frost date. Find that on the calendar and count back based on what you're planting. And I'll show you that on the calendar here in a minute. 6 to 8 weeks for these tomatoes, and then that's when you'll want to start them indoors. So I'll be starting these today, and if you want to hang out till the end, that's what we're going to do in this video. Another thing that you're going to need is light. So if you do not have a place in your house to put your seedlings in a window or somewhere where they are going to get a lot of sun, you're going to need some grow lights. And I have some grow lights in my back room that I keep just for starting seeds. So when you are going to use grow lights, you need to get a light that these lights are going to be based on what they call Kelvin. That is the brightness of the light. like whenever you see some headlights, some of the older headlights, they're really yellow in color, and then the next car you'll see a light that's so bright it's almost blue. That's called Kelvin. And so you will need a light that has at least 6,500 of Kelvin. And then you will also need to pay attention to the lumen. So the lights need to be at least a minimum of 2,000 lumen. And I think mine are, I think I have some that are 5,000 lumen and some that are 3,500. So the lumen equals your energy, just like the energy that comes from the sun. So that's what the lumen is whenever you're talking about lights. So if the more lumen you have, of course, the more energy that is coming from the light going to the plant. And the plants like a lot of lumen. So I'll show you my lights. Here is my setup. I have 2 lights at the very top. I have 2 lights on the next shelf down. And then I have 2 lights on the shelf down even lower. You can also use grow mats that help your seedlings to germinate quicker, especially if you're going to be growing peppers. And this is the seed mat that I used. I got this seed mat on Amazon, I believe, and it was not very expensive at all. Here's a few things that I've already got going. I have some peas, which are the tallest ones. They're in the back. I have some lettuces. I have broccoli. I have Brussels sprouts. And I have some peppers. And today we're going to be, and cauliflower. And today we're going to be doing tomatoes. I also have some little onions that I've already started. So here's the best way that I have found to know when to plant your seeds. So all of your seed packets are going to tell you when to plant. So it's really as simple as reading your directions, and they're all going to be different, but you can group them together. For instance, the tomatoes may be different. This one says start indoors 6 to 10 weeks before the last frost. I just do all of mine at the 8-week mark. And I do all of my tomatoes 8 weeks before time to put them outside. So what you need to do is get you a planner. And that's what I've got here. I've got a planner. It's got these little small calendars, and then it's got bigger areas to write things in. So find out your last frost date. And that is just an average, by the way. That is not set in stone. My last frost date is April 29th. That does not mean that no matter what, I will not have any more frost after April 29th. It is an average. So on average, we do not get any more days that we have a frost after April 29th. So what I'll do is I will find my last frost date and then count backwards. If I'm going to do 8 weeks for my tomatoes, I'm just going to count back 8 weeks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So March the 4th is the 8-week mark, and that is a great time for me to start my seeds. And 8 weeks is about the perfect time for them to be mature enough to put outside, but not so early that I have to take care of them for a long time and be overwhelmed with taking care of a bunch of plants indoors. So I can start my seeds inside now. I actually was going to start them last weekend and didn't really get a chance to, but I'm going to start them today. And so what I do after I find out the day that I'm going to start it, I typically do this in advance. I will go through the calendar and I will find March 4th on my calendar. And then I will just write, start tomatoes. And so that's what I've wrote there. And I will do the same thing with everything that I am starting from seed. These are my cucumbers. The cucumbers say to start 3 to 4 weeks before the last frost. So I'll go to my April 29th, last frost date, count back 3 to 4 weeks. 1, 2, 3, 4 is April 1st, 3 is April 8th. So then I will go and I will find April. And I've already got a couple other things down here. Beans, and start my cantaloupes indoors. And now I can write that I'm going to also start my cucumbers. And that's how I do it. That's how I determine when to start my seeds. Now you're going to want to keep in mind that not all seeds are appropriate to start indoors. Corn is not typically one that you want to start indoors, and it grows, most corn grows pretty fast, so you can direct sow corn. Any kind of root vegetable is not typically started indoors, because whenever you disturb the roots, it really seems to stunt the growth of your root vegetables. So you don't want to start those indoors. That includes carrots. You don't want to start carrots indoors. I've already got some started outside that have not germinated just yet. And I have a whole lot of seeds. I've already started my tatsoi greens outside. These are very cold tolerant. So they're outside already and they have sprouted. So you just have to read your seed packet to find out when to start everything and how to start it. And I have so many different things this season. I'm so excited about growing this black nebula carrot. I think those look so delicious. Anything that is dark blue or black like that, they are really high in anthocyanins, and anthocyanin is a type of antioxidant that is really, really good for you. I even found some blue shelling snow peas that I have already started. These I have under the grow light right now. So now we're going to get started on planting these tomato seeds. Fill the container with your choice of growing medium. Be sure to push the soil down into each cell, not packing it too tight, but you do want it kind of firm. Now you can see I really like tomatoes. This is my favorite thing to plant. It's my favorite thing to grow, and it is my favorite thing to eat. So I always have lots. So I always have to narrow it down to, I try not to grow no more than 20 some, on the lower side of 20 some varieties. And I usually grow more than one of several varieties that I really like. So I cannot forget my favorites. My very favorite is the German Johnson in regular tomato. And my very favorite in cherry tomatoes is the Snow White cherry. And I have to try something new every year. So I will be planting a lot of tomatoes. So once I have narrowed it down to what I want to grow, I fill out my little name tags. And I will make sure that I put the name tags in as I go. Tomatoes do not have to be planted very deep. So I'm going to start with the black strawberry. It is a cherry tomato. It is a beautiful, beautiful tomato. Actually, one of the most beautiful tomatoes I've ever grown. And it has a classic tomato flavor. So we'll start with it. See, tomato seeds are pretty small. I'm going to do a couple extras because I do sell some tomato plants. And I also give some away to family. I'm going to put 2 in each cell, and then I will either separate them if both of them grow, and if only one grows, then I won't have to do anything. So now I have half of my 72 cell tray planted, and I'm going to put them on this heat mat. This is called bottom watering, and I will just leave this sitting for a couple hours and let it begin to soak up into the cells. And here is what they look like just a few days later. And that's all I've got for today. I thank you all for joining me. God bless you. Have a great day.